Government of India is following all of society approach, leaving no one behind in disaster risk management. In this regard, I compliment National Institute of Disaster Management for organizing a national conference on disability inclusive disaster risk reduction, which is a first pre-event for the ensuing national platform for disaster risk reduction. During disaster, the people get impacted, and especially it disproportionately impact the person with disability and may also create new disability among the injured. There is need to take special care for people with disability and to include them in disaster risk reduction. In this regard, NDMA has recently, in the last September, has issued a national guidelines on disability inclusive disaster risk reduction. The implementation of the guideline will be a key step for the disaster risk reduction, especially for the people with disability, or we called people with different abilities. The conference being organized by the National Institute of Disaster Management is step towards all-inclusive approach, and I compliment and wish the conference a great success. Thank you.
Jai Hind. We are all aware that disaster impacts persons with disability disproportionately and with a higher mortality rate. The discriminatory social attitude and inadequate access to the basic needs further compounds the problem. Persons with disabilities face considerable challenge in accessing the same opportunities as the rest of the population in a disaster situation. It is important that the disaster management system includes the needs of the disabled. It is very important that the persons with disabilities find a seat at the table and are involved in the decision-making process. It is also in line to meet the goal of the Sustainable Development Goal of leaving no one behind, and also to confirm the vision of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. Keeping this in view, National Institute of Disaster Management is organizing a one-day conference on disability inclusive disaster risk reduction, where the relevant stakeholders, the practitioners, and all authorities who are dealing with persons with disabilities related issues, both at center, state or district levels, have been invited and will take part to come out with an actionable plan for DiDRR so that it can be implemented in future. I welcome every participant to this national conference for a very fruitful discussion. Thank you.
I am K.V.S Rao, Director in the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Government of India. We deal with the law and policy related to persons with disabilities. We have a new law, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act 2016, by which we have to ensure that equal rights are provided to persons with disabilities as is available to other citizens. So the National Institute of Disaster Management, in collaboration with my department, we are holding a national conference on 5th of February this year. We expect to prepare a good roadmap to ensure protection and safety of persons with disabilities in case of disaster and also post-disaster. We request that all the stakeholders will provide their constructive inputs so that we have proper roadmap and action plan for ensuring protection and safety for persons with disabilities.
I'm happy to share with all of you that National Institute of Disaster Management is organizing a one-day event, especially to discuss inclusive DRR related to various disabilities. What happens during disaster, they have the serious and largely brunt of the disasters, and disaster affects differently. Disaster impact is not homogeneous and it affects differently to different people, men, women, and also that vulnerable groups. And amongst that, the people who are having various disabilities are much more vulnerable. They work on almost 100% of kind of a probability of getting affected. So this is going to be a very, very important and serious exercise as part of the National Platform for Disaster Risk Reduction of Government of India, where most of the issues would be discussed related to inclusive DRR, policy, programs, strategies, capacity development, and way ahead for taking this agenda forward, which gets included with the Honorable Prime Minister's 10-point agenda of disaster risk reduction. This would be a milestone in terms of bringing disaster risk management in much more inclusive manner. Thank you.
The National Institute of Disaster Management and the Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, Government of India, are collaborating to organize a national conference on disability inclusive DRR, pathways for inclusion and action for resilience, on 5th of February 2020. This conference aims to bring together the stakeholders and practitioners from the field of disaster risk reduction and disability inclusion working in the field, as well as the state governments and the national governments. So this conference will aim towards looking at the issues and challenges of disability inclusion in times of disasters and chart out courses to not only address the issues of persons with disabilities during disasters, but also on ways of utilizing their capabilities and their potential, especially of the persons with disabilities, so that disaster resilience is implemented and is possible throughout the country. Thank you.